Welcome to the 700 Club Canada. I'm Brian Warren.
And I'm Laurel and Tyler Thompson. We love spending this time with you. Thanks for joining us.
We truly do. You know, author Tamar Huggins is in studio today, and we'll talk to her about the idea of making God your CEO. And her book is called Bossed Up.
Now, here's a question to consider. How do you define success?
Success means many things to different people. It might mean landing that dream job or career, or maybe even owning a large house or an expensive car.
It may even depend on your age or place in life. Here's an interesting fact. A survey of Canadian students defines success as being happy, not owning a big house or expensive car. Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
Well, I personally define success as a great relationship with my father and being at peace in where I am at in my call and my destiny. It's being at peace with my family. But I remember an interesting story, Brian, and then I want to know how you define success. But there was a fellow, very young, and he got his dream job, he called it, and he said that it was the biggest break of his whole life. And even when I was about 20 years old, I knew this was not the biggest break of his whole life. He's 20, you know, and I laughed at how he thought that was so important. But I think we learn to define success in different ways. Do you have an answer?
Well, I don't have much time, but I will say this, that I'll be able to stand before God without a soiled conscience, and that my wife and my daughter respect the life that I've lived.
Beautiful. Well, you know, in our first story, success was something that Bill Randall wanted, and he went to any length to get it, even if it meant doing something illegal.
Take a look.
Although his family struggled financially, Bill Randall had a happy childhood. But a simple request for a pair of jeans changed everything.
Levi's blue jeans was a big thing, you know, when I'm growing up in the late 70s. And that's when I went home and said, you know, why can't I have Levi's? Mom, you know, basically told me, you know, they cost a whole lot more money than what you wear. So, you know, that's when I realized, you know, everybody wasn't the same.
From that day on, Bill Randall set his mind to never be poor again. He later got a job in the county assessor's office as a real estate appraiser.
I wanted to be able to buy what I wanted to buy. I wanted to be able to go where I wanted to go. I even got to the point where I felt entitled to do certain things and to receive certain things.
In 2002, he became the county assessor. He started making illegal real estate deals to receive kickbacks.
A guy came to me and said, look, I got this building for sale. And do you think the county would be interested? For me, it was a $50,000 kickback. That was a lot of money for me.
Bill was married with a daughter, but it wasn't long before he started leading a double life. Some coworkers introduced Bill to methamphetamines. Immediately, the drug had him hooked.
Common sense would tell you, you know, it's two things. It's gonna hurt your body, and it's against the law. I threw both of those out the window that day. And immediately, I liked it. And within days, I was trying to figure out how I could make money off this drug.
Bill started using his real estate kickbacks to buy and sell drugs. He also embraced the party lifestyle that came with the drugs and had several affairs.
I didn't want to get old, I wanted to get younger. This powerful drug made me feel years and years younger. I was going from point A to point B, and it was all about me.
But eventually, Bill would have to pay for his double life. In 2006, his wife divorced him. And 2 years later, the FBI knocked on his door with charges for his illegal deals and drug activity.
I ended up with a 40-count indictment. It ranged from conspiracy to distribute cocaine, methamphetamine, failure to disclose financial transactions, taking the kickback on the building, and I was guilty of all 40.
For several months, Bill had to await his sentence.
At this point in time, I have been exposed. I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I'm humiliated, I'm scared. I have hurt everybody. I reached out to a friend, a pastor friend, Brad Goodell. And the first thing he said was, I love you. You got hard times ahead, but Bill, you got to do the right thing. He said, the first step is coming to church. I hadn't been in church in years.
Brad spent time with Bill, praying and studying the Bible.
I knew about Jesus. I knew what the Bible said, but I didn't have a relationship with God. I went to Brad after counseling, after a lot of prayer, after me finally opening the Word of God up and starting to read it again, after years of not opening a Bible. I told him I wanted to be part of the church. So I walked down one Sunday morning, praise God, probably 300, 400 people there. And I asked to be a part of that church, knowing that I was going to prison. And I'm weeping. And I'm looking down. And I addressed him and told him that I was guilty of every charge. I'm 100% guilty. And I dropped my head. They stood up. And they're clapping. That's the love of Christ.
The Sunday before leaving for prison, Bill dedicated his life to Jesus Christ.
I felt and knew in my heart that God had just forgiven me for all the filth and sin that I had wallowed around in for 5.5, 6 years. God forgave me.
Bill spent almost 5 years in federal prison, but spent his time in Bible study and prison church services. He was released in 2013, and today he is the founder of a nonprofit crisis ministry aimed at helping people in hard situations. He says it's the most rewarding job he's ever had.
I'm a different man, and I make different decisions now. I talk different. I walk different. I do things that I've never done, and I do them in the name of Jesus Christ. I don't do them in the name of Bill Randall. That's a miracle.
Wow, when you look at Bill's life, that is a relentless redemption. That's a story.
That's a
And
story.
I love it when he went before the church and he said, I'm 100% guilty.
Yeah.
And they gave him a standing ovation.
Oh.
He probably thought they were going to stone him and at the end. But he says, now the things that I do, and I love that at the end, I don't do them in the name of Bill Randall. And he said, that's a miracle.
Right.
I now do everything that I do in the name of the Lord.
Well, you know, I think where he got to was the absolute end of himself. And I love it when people arrive there in honesty, when they can honestly say, this is the deal. That's true surrender. I mean, when we're still trying to cover up and be something that we're not and make it seem okay that we did this wrong thing, first of all, everyone can see through everything you're saying. And it's not the posture that God is wanting to see, where you are releasing and you're asking for forgiveness and you're repenting.
You know, off the top, I said I'd rather be a private success and a public failure than a public success and a private failure. Standing before God and my wife and also daughter respecting me. And it's just doing it the right way. It may not feel good, but it's working for your good. That's what Romans 8:28 says. All things work together for the good of them that love God and are called according to his purpose. When you do it according to his way, the sky is the limit. If you don't know how to do it because you've never had an illustration, we want to get this into your hands. It costs you nothing. The sky's the limit. And you can live at the end of that and celebrate, and it will not be taken away.
1-855-759-0700. We'll get that out to you. Coming up, Dana Casper grew up in church but ended up living a wild life of sex, drugs, and fame in Hollywood. And it left her shattered and empty.
Find out what turned her back to Christ after this.
I married the wrong man. Am I stuck forever in this hopeless nightmare? What am I gonna do?
Thanks for your hard work.
I've got to stop drinking. But how do I stop? How can I break this addiction?
I'm so depressed. Nothing seems good anymore. Can I ever crawl out of this black hole?
So I cheated and we won. There are a lot of sins worse than that, right? I mean, it's not like I killed somebody.
Our minds are filled with hard questions, situations, and challenges that come at us every day. Where do we go for answers? And who can we ask? In Pat Robertson's latest teaching, Ask Anything, you'll get biblical answers to life's toughest questions. You'll discover important insights in finance, health, spirituality, and relationships. Get Ask Anything and get the answers you need today.
I'm in Hollywood, I'm in the thick of it. I'm living in Malibu on the beach. Nicolette Sheridan and Leif Garrett are upstairs, and we hang out together on the ocean, and like life couldn't get any better.
Dana Casper was living her dream. But behind the scenes of her glamorous world of acting, Dana had a secret. Abandoned by her father as a baby and raised by a single mom, she spent her childhood in the care of babysitters.
After swimming one day, he asked me to follow him into his bedroom for nap time. And I really didn't know what was taking place because I thought this person was wonderful and he was a good friend of the family and someone I looked up to and expected to keep me safe. And instead, he harmed me sexually.
A year later, Dana fell prey to another abuser.
Afterwards, I felt great guilt and shame. It was the huge shift in my heart. It's when my world really turned upside down.
To ease the pain of her abuse, Dana escaped into the world of television and film.
You don't want to be there, so you try to be somewhere else. And I perfected disassociation and being somewhere else. I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could be the actor on TV. I could be Julie Andrews in Sound of Music with all the kids, and I could sing like her, and I could run on the meadows. And everything pure and good, and that purity and that goodness, I held on to that.
But that escape was only temporary, so she turned to other things to ease the pain.
I started experimenting with drugs, alcohol, hanging out, with people everywhere.
After high school, Dana moved to Hollywood to work in the film industry. It was the perfect place to bury the shame and guilt she carried.
I didn't have to think about me. And then to be in that, where everything is pretend, it was a good place for me to continue the pretend. Because if I let it out, I'd be found out for the badness that I was. And then I would be rejected again and abandoned again and not be loved.
Dana quickly found success in Tinseltown. As she embraced the Hollywood lifestyle, she fell headlong into drugs and alcohol abuse, and something more.
Worked at ABC Motion Pictures and went to all the parties and worked at 20th Century Fox for years and publicity and promotion, thinking that would make me happy. Oh gosh, if you're in, the movie business, if you're in Hollywood, if you're working at Fox and you're with somebody that's important, you're gonna be happy. But they're passing cocaine underneath the table at business lunches. So it drove me deeper into depravity instead of being any kind of lifeline.
Then Dana became pregnant. She decided to have an abortion. She quickly regretted that decision.
I remember the guy calling the hospital after it happened when I'm in recovery and just feeling like, oh God, just let me die. That's how I felt. I just wanted to really die.
Later, Dana got into a relationship and became pregnant again. But a week before she found out, some friends talked her into taking LSD. This time, doctors talked her into an abortion. Dana had had enough. One night, she fell on her knees in desperation.
And I just wanted to end life. So I'm on my knees and I'm hysterical and I'm just ready to end it. And I cried out to Jesus to please help me.
Dana surrendered her heart to the Lord.
He heard the depths of my heart. He knew I needed help.
Dana says for the first time she had hope. She went through AA and with God's help, put away drugs and alcohol. she also forgave her abusers and received God's healing, forgiveness, and love.
I didn't want to drink. Like, I didn't want to drink, which is remarkable because I love to be social and drink. And that was the beginning of walking out of the pit of hell.
Today, Dana is married and has 2 daughters. She's an advocate for victims of sexual abuse. The love she found through Jesus Christ has given her peace.
He saw in my heart to receive his love, and that helps me love myself, and that helps me love others. In the storm of life, he is the rock. It will be the sweetest life you've ever lived. If you want joy, the road to joy is Jesus.
Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. We're here to help you discover life.
Welcome back. As we continue to move in this year, 2018, the year of endless possibilities, we're believing that God is going to allow whatever he has put in that heart of yours, that dream, to move from dream to reality. And to help you do that, we've got a wonderful guest today. Tamar Huggins is author of Bossed Up, not only a Harry Jerome Award winner, but also a skilled advertiser, entrepreneur, and a woman who has a mighty mission. Welcome to the 700 Club Canada. You know, I'm so excited about what God is doing in your life because you've had great success moving in the corporate world and seeing those ideas that God has given you become a reality with Nike, or with a number of other corporations. How did that start with you?
Well, it started with my advertising background.
Okay.
So I went to Centennial College. I graduated with a degree in advertising, creative advertising, and before I even finished my 3rd year, I was hired by one of the top agencies in Toronto. And I was working in the media planning department. I had the pleasure of working with Nike and H&M and a few other clients as well. And you know, advertising is something I was so passionate about. I knew I wanted to be in advertising from I was 16 years old.
So does that mean that you've just had a bunch of ideas flying and you've had stuff on the board and things have just been kind of like...
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Where did that come from? And now, did this start at an early age?
It did, yes. I would say by the time I was in about grade 7 or so.
Okay.
One of my teachers, Mrs. Blake.
Mrs. Blake.
Yes. She was very strict with us. She treated us all like adults, even though we were only 13 at the time. And she would always give us the newspaper and encourage us to read certain sections, and I would always gravitate towards the business section. I had no idea why, but it's just something that I was drawn to. And when I got into grade 8, my teacher, Mr. Burlon, did the same thing. You know, he encouraged us to start thinking about what we wanted to do when we got out of elementary and into high school, where we wanted to focus. And he gave us this booklet, and it had a whole bunch of careers in it. And business administration stuck out to me. I had no idea what business admin was, but just hearing that word business had this ring to it, and I was drawn to it. And so from that point on, I think I was really interested in business and corporate lifestyles and the creative aspect of it as well.
Now, that's cool. Now, at the same time, you've got a parallel track happening because God is also doing something in your life. How did that happen?
God has always been a part of my life. And I have to give thanks to my parents for that.
Okay.
And especially my aunt who raised me as a young girl. And I just remember her always singing hymns and always praying. And it's always been a foundation. God has always been that foundation. And it wasn't until I was about 13, 14, 15 years old when I really started to accept God and really said, you know, I want to be saved and I really want to live my life for Christ. And it was at that point where, you know, I was going through a lot of things, as many teenagers were.
Of course.
But I thank my parents for opening that doorway for me, because knowing God has done so much amazement in my world, and I don't know where I'd be without that.
Well, you know, the reason I ask that, because when we talk about your book, and I want to get into this, it's Bossed Up, 100 Truths to Becoming Your Own Boss, God's Way. Yes. I think that's fantastic, and this is a heavy book as well.
It is.
In more ways than one.
Yes.
And I say that because I know there are a lot of people who are wondering, could I start a business? Can I move out? And what do I have to do? One of the things, and it's number 50, that I saw, and this is the Bossed Up Truth, number 50, seek wise counsel. Without counsel, plans go away. Or arise, excuse me. But in the multitude of counselors, they are established. Proverbs 15:22. That's one of my favorite verses. Tell us about this. Why is this so important, these truths and Bossed Up?
I think for me, it's really important to share my experience and how I went through what I went through, and what I've learned with individuals who feel that entrepreneurship is a calling for them. Because entrepreneurship is not for everyone. Unfortunately, society sort of demonizes the 9 to 5, and that's not what this book is about. It's really about those who have that calling. And when you have that calling, oftentimes the next question is, okay, what is the next step? What do I do next? And so I wanted to create 100 different ideas, 100 different truths that were true to me and would be true to another individual in terms of how can they actually move forward? What is that next step? And seeking wise counsel is so important, because when you are starting out, you don't know anything. So if you go to someone and they're giving you counsel and it's unwise, they're pouring into you the wrong things. And then there's a lot of undoing that needs to happen, right?
You know, the reason I started off with that, because when you were at the peak of advertising, something happened, a catharsis in your life where it was no longer meaningful, and you felt that you had to make a change because you became one of those people, you said. Tell us about that.
Yes. You know, to be honest, I think at that point I really started to experience God in my life, because I just felt such a
in
strong...
the 9 to 5.
Yes, yes. I felt that the shift was happening, but I was resistant to the shift because it was uncomfortable, and entrepreneurship is very uncomfortable, right? And I felt that there were I was going through a lot of spiritual attacks. And at that time, I didn't really understand what was happening. But the Lord was opening my eyes and showing me the surroundings and where I was, and telling me that this is not where I want you to be anymore. You've served your purpose. It's now time to move on. But I was scared to move on. So it was when the recession happened in 2009 that I lost my job, right? And it was at that point that I said, you know what, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get a degree in, advertising, human resources, and also in PR, and start my own company. And take that opportunity, because while I was there, I had that passion.
Now, what drove that? Because someone's listening to you right now. They've gone through downsizing. They've gone through losing things as well. And that's a difficult thing. When God closes one door, he opens another. But it's hell in the hallway. So how do we get through that hallway?
Oh my goodness, I would say making sure that you have people surrounding you who understand where it is that you're supposed to be. Because when you're in that hallway and you don't know where you're going, God will always send someone, whether it's your pastor, whether it's someone to speak into your life, to tell you what it is that you are supposed to be doing with your life and what scriptures you need to lean on. So when they give you that word, you have something to stand on to help to encourage you through those moments when you're thinking, okay, God, you told me I was going to have this. You told me I was going to be this person, but I can't see it right now. And it's for us to remember to stand on his word.
Because someone's writing a book, right, that they've had for the last 20 years or 15 years that they haven't written.
Yeah.
Someone has got a cupcake business and they're saying, you know what, I need to get this thing going.
Yes.
Someone is saying, I need to go on, be a vlog, do something. What are the steps that they need to do? And to become, you said, make God your CEO. Could you take us through that?
Yes, so making God your CEO essentially is taking that back seat and allowing him to be in charge, allowing him to steer the ship and to chart the course. And essentially what that means is not trying to figure it out on your own. When you have a CEO, the CEO is responsible for creating the strategy, they're responsible for telling you how it's going to go down, and it's for you now to implement that strategy to make sure it happens. When we try to do it the reverse, it doesn't work.
Yeah. You know, you're mentoring a lot of kids and you're mentoring a lot of people. What's the next point that you have to have in order to do this? We were talking about that offset.
Yes, I think it's really important for people to understand what their purpose is in life, right? It's really important for people to understand that no matter what situation is happening, no matter where you are, where you grew up, what your lifestyle was, there is something more out there for you. And being a mentor is so important. It's important to show individuals, young people in your life what they can become and not what society tells them they can be, but showing them and giving them the options to do what it is that God has called them to do.
Oh, wow. You know, there's so much meat in this as well. And we have just scratched the surface, but it's called Bossed Up, 100 Truths to Becoming Your Own Boss God's Way. Wow, Tamar Huggins, I really appreciate this, and you are a dynamo, and I know God is going to do even great things in your life, but I believe that he's also saying in your life today, if you needed that shove today, today you've got it, and you have the permission to move into your purpose and your plan. We sure enjoyed being with you, and if you need more prayer or encouragement, 1-855-759-0700. Prayer partners will be standing by even after the program. Until next time, God bless. To contact us, phone 1-855-759-0700. You can email us at cba@700club.ca. or write to us at Christian Broadcasting Associates Incorporated, the 700 Club Canada, P.O. Box 700, Scarborough, Ontario, M1S 4T4. You can now like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter or Instagram. On tomorrow's show.
Can I be thin and pretty? This is my thing. You can't control me. I was getting worse, and that spring was the first time I was hospitalized. I was living either in an extreme world of treatment and hospitalizations where I was not being showed what a realistic relationship with food looked like or a healthy relationship with my body looked like. When I would get out, all I knew was the eating disorder.